Hello, so good morning everyone. I'm Stephen Quayle and I'm the Operations Director for Capital International Bank, the first new bank to be launched in the Isle of Man in over 30 years, and a fully digital bank at that. The Capital International Group has been a strong supporter of the e-gaming industry for a number of years, and that hasn't changed with the launch of our new bank. Today I'm going to provide a high-level overview of the Capital Group, the 4-year journey it took to open the bank, and also run through some of the key features that are available within the banking platform that we've built. So jumping into it, I'd first like to play a brief video, our Capital Vision video, to give you a bit of a feel for the Capital Group and what it's all about.
If speed equals distance over time, and time equals money, then why is corporate banking so slow? At Capital International Bank, we have the solution. Our platform is built for speed. Sometimes corporate banking can be so tedious, and opening an account can take months of back and forth. With quick applications, rapid decision-making, and 3 to 10-day account opening, Capital International Bank keep the process short and sweet. With a 25-year history, Capital International Group serve more than 10,000 clients and hold over $5 billion in AUA. We know how to look after our clients, and we look after the planet too. With 2 trees planted for every new account opened, we are striving to become carbon neutral by the end of 2025. Capital International Bank, bringing banking back to business.
There we go. So as touched on in the video, Capital Group celebrated its 25th anniversary earlier this year. The group has performed extremely well over the years with its regulated investment business, and particularly in recent years, as you can see here. This has enabled it to continue its entrepreneurial approach and ultimately has invested around 13 million into launching the new bank. We remain privately owned in the Isle of Man with pragmatic local decision making. Over the last 5 years, we've created 100 new jobs across the group, and our overall headcount now stands at approximately 200 across our 3 locations. We have around 170 people here at our head office in the Isle of Man at Capital House in Douglas, and a further 30 staff in our South Africa offices across both Cape Town and Johannesburg. So, with a background in a regulated investment business, why did Capital decide to launch a bank and set off on a journey to bring banking back to business? We first need to take a brief step back in history, and I'll do a very whistle-stop tour of about a decade in a minute. Following the financial crisis in 2008, we saw a reduction in interest rates, increased regulation, and overall a tightening of risk appetites. In the Isle of Man, we saw banking licenses reduced from 40 in 2010, and by 2017 that had halved to only 20. That later became 10 before Capital became the 11th. It became increasingly difficult for key Isle of Man sectors to access banking services, so people like yourselves in the e-gaming industry and the CSP world as well. Previously, only existing banking groups could actually apply for a license in the Isle of Man, so that resulted in no new entrants over that decade. In 2016, the Isle of Man government finally approved what then became known as the alternative banking regime. What this allowed was the creation of a non-retail bank, so effectively a corporate bank, because it was not covered by the deposits compensation scheme. Everything else was the same as far as regulation goes. But it also allowed that bank to be created by an existing group that's not from a banking parentage. So that was only on the proviso that group had a good solid history in regulated financial services. So with Capital's 25-year history we covered before, it was well positioned to look at this. The opportunity presented itself and the entrepreneurial appetite from our shareholders was there. Ultimately, we're a business and we recognised there was clearly a strong commercial opportunity here and really wanted to make a difference for the island ultimately. We've recruited individuals not only from the banking industry, but also from your own sector. So we've got people from the eGaming sector and CSP industry, because we really want to make sure that we understand those sectors before we go into them, and really understand your banking requirements as well. With our innovative, more fintech approach, we knew we could create a fully digital proposition, not hamstrung by the archaic systems that some banks are stuck with that were built back in the 70s and 80s that continue to be bolted on and on and on. So where did we start in building a bank from scratch? First, we had to understand what type of bank we wanted to create. So, following lots of market research with yourselves in the CSP world, we identified from the outset that we really wanted to own the client experience. So we committed early on to developing our own in-house digital onboarding and online banking platform. This later became known as Velta. We committed to doing this with our own in-house IT developers and technology organization. This is now led by our CTO, Jerry Boskill, who many of you will know from the eGaming world. We backed up our own front end with industry-leading core systems from key suppliers that's no doubt similar to many sort of eGaming models that are out there. We obviously had to pull together high-level financials, make sure the viability of our bank was there, and start to create the formal FSA regulatory license application, much like your GSC license applications that you'll be going through. So, the FSA application process. I should note this is not a picture of the FSA offices. I'm not suggesting that. Sorry if there's anyone in the room. These images are purely to represent the fact that that's what things did look like the last time a new banking license was granted in the Isle of Man over 30 years ago. There was therefore no well-trodden path. There was no manual to follow. And after a 30-year gap, both ourselves and the FSA we're going to be breaking new ground in working through this application process together. We had constant engagement with the FSA, who were fantastic throughout, and we had to bring our key suppliers on this journey with us. This turned out to be a 2-year process in nailing the application down. Ultimately, on the 13th of August 2019, the FSA approved our license application, granting us a provisional Class 1-2 deposit-taking license. Here's a picture of our CEO, Greg Ellison, looking very pleased and smug with himself after being awarded the license. Although from memory, he didn't look quite as chipper the morning after the celebrations. I don't think any of us were at that point. Unfortunately, the license alone isn't a bank, and we now have to physically build it. Testing and launching the bank. So following the provisional license in August 2019, we then had to really kick on with establishing our correspondent banking network and building up the operational systems ready for testing. This was where my role as operations director for the bank really ramped up. It also just so happens to coincide with a time where I had significantly less grey hair than I do today. It's worth highlighting that this key stage, so August 19 through the vast majority of 2020, we were building the bank. And this started alongside the small matter of a growing global pandemic. So we quickly had to adapt to working from home, press on with building the bank from our spare rooms and kitchen tables. Perversely, I still believe the pandemic was a key contributor to our success. It created absolute focus on getting the job done, and with an incredible set of project managers, we managed to reduce distractions and get the job done, just with the exception of the odd small child screaming in the background and a cat dancing across a keyboard. Ultimately, once the bank was built and tested, Greg twisted my arm and asked if we could do the first live transaction in front of all of our staff at packed out Capitol House. Reluctantly, I agreed. On the 1st of December, we set all of this up, and fortunately, to my great relief, it processed successfully and the payment landed where we sent it. Rather sadly, and for people who know me probably won't be surprised, I actually have a copy of that transaction framed on my wall at home. On the 3rd of March, we then were able to start allowing a small group of clients to onboard into the bank, so then carried on kind of live proving with those guys who we're very grateful for. With continued good results, we were then able to ask the FSA to lift any final restrictions and effectively look to try and get the doors open completely. So finally, on the 27th of May 2021, earlier this year, the FSA awarded us with our full unrestricted banking license, the first ever Class 1-2 licensed bank in the Isle of Man. So with all those challenges, creating a fully digital bank from scratch, a 30-year gap since it had last been done, a new license regime, COVID, and working from home, we're extremely proud of our achievements to date. And we still managed to finish it all before the Douglas Promenade scheme. I'd now like to play a short video showcasing Velta, and then I'll run through and pick up some of the key features that will be available to you. My slides to shame a little bit. There you go. So if I just pick up on a couple of the key sort of features that we think are sort of stand out a bit. So first, the pre-application, where we hear lots of stories most days about how long it can take a bank to even look at your application. It can take many, many months to consider that, and sometimes even at the end of that, you're told you cannot go forward, wasting a lot of people's efforts. With our pre-app feature, we ask a series of simple initial questions that take around 200 seconds to answer. What that looks to do is determine whether you're essentially eligible for an account with us or not, before you then start moving into the full application process. We also provide you with an indication of likely account opening times, as well as the fee structure that we'd be looking to charge. Of course, all of these are subject to final review once the full application is submitted. Digital onboarding. So as a digital bank, we have a zero paper onboarding platform where you can complete your application and upload your documentation as you go. The system auto-saves progress, allowing you to enter information at your own pace. Particularly for groups with multiple entities or CSPs with multiple clients, where you end up with the same contacts cropping up again and again, you're able to save those key contacts in your address book and use those contacts again for future applications. The platform also helpfully builds up a visual structure chart as you go, showing how everything and everyone is connected, as you can see here. Online mandates. So your Velta administrator, who is established in the onboarding process, has the ability to manage all users and permissions themselves through the online mandates. There's no need for any paper forms to be submitted to the bank. It's all entirely in your control. With the click of a button, it's possible for your administrators to add or remove users and set exact authorities at each account. Payments. Paul's already covered a lot about payments, so I won't go into this too much, but we're a bank. Of course, you can make payments as you'd expect. You can make these across the 20 currencies that are available and that you can hold your accounts in. The only proviso is, unfortunately, we're not able to provide US dollars to eGaming clients. We've tried. This is a nut that we've just not quite been able to crack as yet, but trust me, we will continue to keep trying. We have all the standard payment methods you'd expect for both domestic and international payments, with all the usual features you'd expect from your online banking platform. Foreign exchange. Sadly, this is probably my personal favorite, mainly because it was so complicated to build, but actually looks ridiculously easy when you come to use it. Velta allows you to carry out foreign exchange between your accounts simply and efficiently across your 20 currencies. All you have to do is simply input your trade, click a button, you're presented with a live market-facing rate, and then you have 60 seconds to decide if you want to accept the trade. And finally, probably most importantly for the e-gaming sector, fiduciary deposits. So this product has been developed specifically with the e-gaming industry in mind. We know there can be a need to hold large balances from time to time. However, this can be difficult for a small bank due to its capital size. We therefore created the fiduciary deposit accounts, which can essentially hold unlimited funds. Funds held in a fiduciary deposit account are placed at a highly rated banking institution, with the credit exposure being to that institution rather than to Capital International Bank. These accounts are all visible through Velta, like all of your other accounts, and you can transfer to and from them seamlessly in order to make any onward payments that as may be required. So, in closing, it turns out it's not easy to summarize a 4-year monumental project into a 15-minute presentation. It also turns out it's really not very easy at all to open a bank from scratch. Hopefully this has given you a good feel for the bank and its journey, along with Capital Group as a whole. The bank is e-gaming client friendly, with a number of such clients already on its books. Capital International Group is here and committed to your industry and the island as a whole, with the launch of this bank being testament to that. So that's it from me, hopefully just within time, I think so. If anyone would like any further information, we've got some of our team upstairs. There is a stand where we can also provide demonstrations of Velta. They're up on the gallery level. Alternatively, visit our website and get in touch. Thank you again. That's it from me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the seminar.